Kia ora te iwi and welcome to The Chew. Coming at you from the studio here in Kāmuriwai, Arrowtown. Ko Arrowtown Dad tēnei. And today we're chewing the fat with Alexa Forbes.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. So it's been a little while since we've had you on.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Couple of years, yeah. It's probably been about 3 years
yeah.
now. Yeah. So
things have changed.
Yeah, things have changed everywhere. Yeah, situations are all different now, and so Alexa was one of the very first interviewees that we did in the really early stages of The Chew. So go back and have a look at episode down here, and so it's good to have you back again.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's been too long.
Yeah, it has. Now, our initial discussion that we had was about you, your life growing up, and I kind of made a decision at that time to completely steer away from the political things that you're involved in. However, today we're gonna change things up, and one of the reasons I wanted to have a chat to you today is to have a little bit of a chat about politics, New Zealand politics, as well as the global political situation. So, what do you reckon we get started?
I reckon get started. That's a big subject.
Big subject.
And I don't know what I'll bring to it, but we'll see.
Well, actually, to start things off, can you just give us a quick or a background and what your political life has been up until this point, like the types of things you've been involved in?
Well, I studied politics early on when I first went to university, and I was brought up in a reasonably political family. My mother was highly political and spent a lot of time working within the National Party. And
really?
Yeah, and then I sort of forgot all about politics, did other things. But when I moved back to Queenstown, started slowly doing that, and when I sold the PR business, a PR business that I'd started with another person, I went into QLDC on an elected platform, and I kind of did that because I'd sold my PR business. I'd gone back and done a master's degree and two grad dips, so I got quite a lot of qualifications, and was working for Otago Polytechnic in their bachelor's and master's work-based degrees.
Right.
And that was, I really, really enjoyed that, but I found myself doing a lot of work in local politics, political groups and things, and thought, oh, well, I might as well be a paid volunteer. So I stood for local government, and in 2012 was elected to QLDC.
QLDC, Queenstown Lakes District
Council. Thank you. Yep. I should assume nothing. One thing I've learned, assume nothing. Anyway, then, so I did that for 6 years while going part-time at Otago Polytech, and then in 2019 stood for the regional council, mainly because of concern about our wai, our fresh water, our wai Māori. It was just being really badly exploited and was in a bad condition, and if you believe that impacts all human health, as I do, you know you're in trouble. So we needed to do something about that. So I stood for the regional council. I was also really concerned about our transport systems, but again, how that connects to why as a whole connection thing.
Right.
But so I did that for 6 years, and then last year, so 2024, the local elections, I stood down. I decided not to stand again, and decided to hold myself to that decision, even though I wavered a few times. And then I also took the opportunity to take voluntary redundancy from the Polytechnic because of the political football it's become. And it's, somebody...
Even at Polytech?
Oh, terrible. I see there's some stickers around the place now going, save our Polytech. So it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But that's another story. And so I stood down from there as well. And so now I'm really out of any formal politics at all, but I'm volunteering in 4 groups. Wise Response, which is all about advising people around the planetary boundaries and how we're exceeding them, and trying to offer some information and advice. And then Southern Lake Sanctuary, environmental work, and Community Hub, trying to develop a hub for social services. And the other one, Upper Lakes Catchment group.
Ah, you're part of that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So those are my 4 things I'm kind of working on, and a little wee bit of paid work as let's acknowledge the wonderful Shay Muddle and Ride to the Sky, a tour guide on e-bikes.
All right, shout out to you, Shay. Yep, I've had Shay on the chew as well. Yep.
Yeah, he does a great job, and it's a lovely little business. And do we have good fun on those rides? Yes, we do.
Great. Ah, that's fantastic. So, in terms of your I guess connection to any kind of political organisation, nothing aside from the charities and stuff that you do your work for.
I'm a member of the Green Party.
Oh, okay.
I joined up to the Green Party only a few years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Just because I got so fed up with the other parties.
Fair enough.
So yeah, had a good read through their policies and thought, oh yeah, that's where I'll be for a little while.
Great. All right. Thank you for setting the stage for So we know each other from way back at QLDC. I currently still work for Queenstown Lakes District Council, and that's one of the. The first time we met was through the Te Reo Māori classes.
It was.
Yes.
Te Reo.
Yeah, Te Reo Māori classes. So, and Alexa's been with us on a journey right through. I think you went right through and completed up to the end of level 6. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, Opikitanga with Te Wānanga Aotearoa. So yeah, one of our founding group members of our local Māori group, which also turned into a Waiata group.
Yep. I love the Waiata. My kōrero has slipped somewhat, but I'm sure we could dust things off a little bit and some Waiata as well.
Yeah. We always have a bit of a sing-song. I know I've been a little bit truant when it comes to our Waiata group, but I just had so many other things going on. Anyway, we're going to come back to... I'd like to have a political discussion with you, because I remember at times over the years we would have a few chats. And it was really obvious to me that you were not just knowledgeable, but you were quite passionate about certain political positions, that you hold, as well as, the situations with other political parties, local bodies as well. Mm. So, I thought it'd be a great opportunity, given that we're coming up to an election, to have a little bit of a chat about the New Zealand political scene at the moment.
I do keep a good eye on it. A wary eye.
A wary eye, yes. We should all have a wary eye on it, to be fair.
Not much trust in that system at the moment.
No. And it affects all of us. Yeah. As much as people like to think that politics is boring and like, I don't know anything about it, even if that's true, you're still being affected by politics, right? In your everyday life, what happens at your work, etc. So I'd like to ask the question, on balance, how do you feel right now with the political situation in New Zealand? Is it mostly positive, mostly negative, or somewhere in the middle?
So negative, it's truly awful.
Great. Yeah. Love it. I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly.
I think that we are sitting in a political situation where our votes haven't counted for much. We have a government that is being led around by the nose by 2 rogue parties, in my view. We have a government that's stripping out institutions that talked about decentralising politics, which is what should happen, and has actually gone in to centralise everything, even to the extent of saying that they're going to cut out a whole level of regional local governance without any argument, discussion, no evidence behind why you would do that. And it's whim politics. It's whim driven by personality politics and absolute rubbish. And it's really annoying, and it affects us all. And we've got it's even worse than just being last century politics, which it is. The ideology is really stuck in the 20th century. There's been no movement into the 21st century and looking at the things that we need to be thinking about now. And it's just this personality argument, populist stuff, which is not serving us at all. And one of the big reasons I stepped out of regional governance.
did you feel like you weren't making headway, or did you step out because you saw there was just no point to it? What?
Yeah, that's basically it. We were making headway, and we had a land and water plan that was due to be notified in 2024, the end of October. The day before we were to make the decision to notify this plan that had been worked on for years, 5 years maybe, and had cost $18 million, and we'd been around every little country hall right through the district talking to farmers, coming to some position that we could try and get to look after our water and manage our resources better. And the day before it was to be notified, government overreached into local governance and said no council shall notify a regional land and water plan until they have redone the RMA, which of course they still haven't done. So we have a land and water plan sitting there in the wings that has never been notified, has never had its rough edges rubbed off, and we're stuck with not fit for purpose plans that are old and expired. And the day that they did that and decided that they could overreach to that degree was the day I knew I wouldn't be able to stand again. It took a year to extricate myself. One of our councillors, Brian Scott, walked out on that day and never came back. Resigned then and there. I was very tempted to do the same thing, but I needed to do some work on the public transport system. Had that plan still coming up, which we did that work, and we got the improvements through that I wanted to get through. So once that was done, and it's a very local scenario, but once that was done, I was ready to go. So
there was an amazing local scenario. So just to summarise really quickly. You were one of the driving forces behind the change to the bus system here in Queenstown.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we ended up getting subsidised bus fares.
Why we ended up with a public system at all. And Jim Bolt was the mayor that really helped drive that through.
Yeah.
But before that, Vanessa had done a lot of work on it too.
Yeah.
But through both of those councils, I was sitting there going, yes, that's a bit
Vanessa
chipping away.
Van Uden?
Van Uden, Vanessa Van Uden.
Yeah, because I wanted to take the bus system when I first moved here until I found out how much it was going to cost to take a bus to and from work. It was ridiculous.
Would have been $15 each way back then.
Yeah. It was, at the time, it was more expensive to take the bus than it was to park.
Yeah.
So parking was a bit cheaper back then. Now it's ridiculous. So, but now the cost is something around $2.50 each way.
Yep, that's right.
So
and transport systems need heavy subsidisation, just as private car systems do.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't drive a private car paying the full cost of your roading and everything.
True.
And so, these things are choices as to where we put our money and how we make those transport systems. And that was really, really clear to me. And I was really committed to trying to install as best as we could, or support the installation of, it's never one person, a rudimentary bus system that would serve us well into the future as our population grows, because we are going to need it.
Yeah,
we need it now. People need to be getting out of their cars now, but it's hard, and I get that.
Well, I'm thankful that somebody fought for that bus system, because the lazy person in me just drives, and it's, I live in Arrowtown, which is about 20 minutes drive from Queenstown. So for me to go to work, it's a 20-minute drive in each direction. And it's not so much the cost of the drive that bothers me. It's the fact that I have to focus on driving there and driving back. One of the things I love about taking the bus is I put my headphones on, put my music on, read social media, and I can just tune out while someone else drives me home. It's one of the things I love, but I would never do it at a cost of $15 each way.
But you easily do it at $5 both ways.
Yeah.
And no parking.
Yeah.
And and you get a little bit of fitness with a walk each way too.
Yeah.
But this segues into the necessity of that with the world situation we have right now.
Yep.
And with the cost of fuel. I mean, Queenstown's got its own development problems, which make driving very difficult, very expensive, and gives very, very good reasons to use a bus rather than a private car or a bike, which is what I mostly use. But then, but we have a situation now where the price of petrol is going to scream up And we haven't felt those impacts fully yet because...
Yeah, it takes a little while.
There's a big lag in that system.
Once we get through our reserves, then we're going to be really stung.
And I think also there's a real misunderstanding of the energy crisis we actually have in this country. Actually, with or without the Strait of Hormuz closing or not, we have an energy crisis. We've had one for a long time.
We've had one for a while, right?
And we disguise it through subsidy and through poor policy and everything else. We've got this problem. We can't, our entire industrial agricultural system is heavily reliant on diesel. We're a long way from anything, so we're heavily reliant on an airline, our own airline, and every time we lose, look like losing Air New Zealand, we bail it out again, subsidies once again, and we need to do that. I totally support that. We need an airline. We're too far away.
Do we need to do that? I guess if it's our national carrier, I get it. But
who else is going to fly here?
Well,
why would you bother?
The thing that bothers me is socialism isn't allowed for poor people. But yes, we definitely use it when rich people are struggling. When large corporations are at risk. Oh yeah, throw all the socialism you need at them.
Corporate welfare, well understood, well documented, but well ignored as well. But I think there's a failure of understanding that renewable energy will never fully replace fossil fuels. Electricity cannot do what diesel does. And that comes down to Newton meters and all that that force and torque that you can get, which you can get a lot of torque out of electric.
But do you think in the future there could be scientific discoveries that bridge that gap?
Well, that's what people think, but probably not in pure electricity, because it's basically your storage in a battery is so heavy, right? So to get a battery that has enough power, can store enough power to give you the torque you need to drive a bulldozer up a cliff. That's really hard, but you could do it with hydrogen. Yeah,
that's right. That's where I was going. So obviously the limits of using electricity are there.
Purely,
But other forms of power are still on the table.
Well, you have to look at, and I know we don't really want to go into an energy discussion, but we've got electricity is stored, right? You can store it in a battery. Which is relatively efficient, but it's heavy. You can store it in hydrogen. They're both still electricity, but it's a different storage. In hydrogen, you can store it in a much lighter way that will drive those heavier vehicles. But then you've got planes as well. And again, an electric plane, not for long haul. So really, electrification in New Zealand, while I think it's an incredibly good idea, and why we don't have solar panels on every single building, I have no idea.
I know, it should be mandated to build.
Absolutely. But with all that electricity, and that can all help everything, but none of it can happen. No solar panel, no electric car, nothing happens without a fossil fuel investment up front. So, we have to think about that. We should have started electrifying New Zealand properly 20, 30, 40 years ago. The next best time is today, and this government isn't going near it. But I think we're going to find a very, very big problem coming down our way after this lag time of about 6 weeks is over. And when was the invasion? 7th of March?
So this whole discussion for that, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows, but if you're watching this sometime in the future, what we're talking about right now is the bombing of Iran by the US and Israel that has pretty much put a stranglehold on the oil supply around the global oil supply at the Strait of Hormuz. So one thing that's interesting to me is that prior to 2 months ago, if someone asked me where or what is the Strait of Hormuz, no idea. I'll guarantee you right now, pretty much 80% probably 90% of the Western world knows exactly where this thing called the Strait of Hormuz is.
But we didn't know.
We'd never heard of it before. But
exactly.
Because of this idiot war that's been started and the effect on the global, not just oil supply, but economy, we all know about it now because we're all waiting to see what's going to happen.
So this is our global scenario that we're in, and we are so utterly connected to every other global situation on the planet through our reliance on fossil fuels, it's probably the biggest one, but also through our reliance on global financial systems, world banks, our exporting and importing scenarios, trade agreements. So we are really tied up in knots with the global system, and that's the scenario that our politics sits within.
Yep.
Our local politics.
So we had a bit of a chat about this beforehand, but let's say in a perfect world, in a perfect world, the CIA didn't come and overthrow our government. Do you see nationalising our resources, our New Zealand resources, as being a good thing for us as a country?
I probably don't. I think that we're too globalised to do that. And I also think that every country that's ever tried to do that has been overturned, exactly.
But my hypothetical is assuming that didn't happen. Do you see a benefit in nationalising our resources?
Well, you've got it. That would take a philosophy of separatism.
Yeah, I agree.
And I probably can't subscribe to a philosophy of separatism.
Well, I mean, it doesn't mean you can't you can't trade with other countries. It just means they
retain control. I can see the attractiveness of the argument, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to head back into national politics again. So I often wonder, like when I was younger, and you would remember this too, we really only had two major parties. And we had this floating other party that was sometimes Social Credit, I think the name of it was.
Values.
Yeah.
Values Party.
Yeah. There was always...
the Alliance.
Yeah. This is like before Alliance came in. But we've really only had two major parties in this country, right? So we kind of, what I tend to find myself doing, I'm not going to say this is what everybody does, but what I find myself doing is going, what are the two major parties offer me? As a first call. Now, in my older years, I don't do that anymore. Now I understand that for me, neither of those major parties fit with my personal philosophy. So I immediately go to other parties straight away. But I used to start at, well, what does Labour do and what does National do? And then make a decision on, which side I would go with. Where I'm going to with this is you are happy to say that you are a Green voter. Obviously, you are a Green. You're part of the Green Party membership. Yep. My question to you is, if a person who is leaning towards voting for Labour, but is potentially has the ability to move to a different party, what would you say to them as a reason why you wouldn't vote for Labour and you would vote for the Greens instead?
Okay, the main reason I wouldn't vote for Labour and vote for Greens, and probably the main reason that I have joined the Greens party, is that Labour has severely disappointed me in that it has failed to disassociate itself with neoliberal economics.
Right.
And I see neoliberalism, market-driven economics, as regressive.
Yep.
And by regressive, I mean, because we talked about specificity of language, to being specific with words.
Yep.
So regressive political system is one that is putting the costs of that system on the people who can least afford it. And I don't believe. I know that that's what neoliberalism does.
Yep.
And Labour still subscribes to that way of thinking and has not made the moves to move away from neoliberalism. It has not made the moves to make New Zealand a more equal country. And I think that is an absolute essential of our politics, is to look at ways of redistributing income so that everybody is housed, everybody is fed, clothed, educated, looked after in their health. I don't believe that's difficult.
Yeah.
But it needs progressive policy, not regressive. And the idea of taking tax off GST and trying to pretend that's progressive, I mean, taking food out of GST, taking the GST off food, is a pathetic nod towards something progressive, but it actually isn't.
I mean, yeah, and it tries to disguise itself as being a progressive move, but I think it ends up introducing more complications in how to administer that. And yeah, as we talked about before, GST is such a simple thing to apply, even though it is regressive, right? It still impacts the lowest earners far more.
It impacts them the worst.
Yeah,
They're people that are only spending on their basic needs, and whereas wealthier people, it just doesn't make any difference to them at all. So no, it's not that I'm saying we should get rid of GST.
We should get rid of it.
Well, possibly we should. I don't know. I'd have to see arguments on that.
Well, the only argument is, how do we replace the money?
That's right. And it must be replaced with progressive taxation.
Of course.
There is, and this is what's happened in New Zealand, is that we've become incredibly regressive in our taxation systems, and that is just driving more and more inequality. And I'd love to hear Labour address that properly and actually reject regressive systems and become a progressive government. And I think in New Zealand now, what's on offer, we've got progressive policy from the Greens, and we've got progressive policy from the Opportunities Party, and some of Te Pāti Māori is progressive. But National and Labour, and certainly New Zealand First, and
just kicking the can down the road.
They are not
actually
progressive.
From what I can tell, the whole attitude that National has is moving away from progressive taxation and into regressive taxation. So making everything levy-based as a single universal cost for everybody, rather than targeting the cost based on, how much you earn or how much your net worth is. So let me try and clarify. So we've used this term regressive tax or regressive cost, regressive system. I'll try and define it right now. And if I get it wrong, can you come in and maybe or further clarify it for me? So my understanding of a progressive tax system would be a regressive tax system would be, for example, a single fee for, let's say, registering a car. Everyone owns one car. Keep this simple. Everyone owns one car. Doesn't matter what type of car it is. It's a car. There's, let's say, it's $100. $100 to register that car. That is an example of a regressive system, a regressive tax system, because if you earn $1 million a year, what $100 takes out of your earnings is minuscule. I don't even know the percentage, 0.0001%. But if you only earn $1,000 a year, that same cost of $100 is now takes out 10%, 0.1%, 1%, takes out 1% of your net worth. That is an example to me of a regressive tax system, because even though it's a blanket cost of $100, it affects rich people far less than it affects poor people.
And that is generally the definition. I think it's sometimes easier to understand in its opposite. So a regressive system has a heavier impact on poorer people. A progressive system moves the tax rates up the wealth scale, so the people who earn the most are paying the most, percentage-wise as well as dollar-wise. I mean, in some things, I mean, that IRD investigation 2023 into 300 odd of the country's wealthiest families was really, really interesting when you looked at it. It was looking at their wealth as well, so you need to look at that. But it showed that the wealthiest, I think they were the 1%, I can't remember what exact percentage of taxpayers they were, but those people were paying less than 9% tax.
An effective tax.
Whereas the average middle New Zealander, so not even poor people, are paying an effective 20% of their income.
That's ridiculous, right?
So if you're at that bottom, the working poor, as it were, I hate to think what your effective tax rate would be as a percentage of your income. So so a progressive tax rate would absolutely turn that around.
Yeah.
So whereas the wealthiest people would be paying by far the largest percentage. And some people go, oh, why should they? They're the ones that have worked hard for that. One, you know how I feel about working hard. This absolute rubbish that work hard and you will be rewarded is rubbish. I don't think we need to go there. If we do, we'll come back to it. But
well, I'd just like to make a point that a lot of these families who sit at the top of the castle, it's all generational wealth. They didn't do anything to earn that money. It just got handed to them from a different generation. So you can't tell me they work as hard as the South Auckland mum with 3 jobs just trying to feed the kids. Hell no.
So yeah, and that's basically your system, and we have a system that allows that intergeneral wealth just to pick up and drag more and more money towards the top, leaving the lower people with less and less and less money, including you and me. We have way less than what our parents had, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of us are earning less than our parents, and the next generation most certainly are ending up with less of the wealth to be distributed.
Yep.
But I was going somewhere with that, but it's gone.
Okay.
Something about
progressive taxing.
Yeah, progressive taxing. Oh, I know what it is. So there is, when you start thinking about progressive taxing, I think, and the argument that they worked hard or they deserved it or their family made it and therefore they should have it, and the similar sorts of arguments that are made, and that they're the people that are investing in the economy, which will of course trickle down to the rest of us, which we know is rubbish. That doesn't happen. But the thing is that those people, you have to understand that those people you can only make money in 2 ways. You either exploit people or you exploit the environment. I'm using harsh words, and that you could say emotive words. So let's put it another way. You can either make money by employing people and creating a margin on what you have employed them for, or else by using what is freely available in the environment or available at low cost in the environment and adding value to that to make money. So those are the only 2 ways of making money. If anybody knows another one, come up with it. But it's and so those are and under that scenario, which is the scenario we live under, you have every responsibility to give back to that community, which is where you've made your money from, and to that environment to restore it. So that's kind of my view of a progressive taxation system and why it should be brought in, and definitely my view of where Labour Party is failing us. If it is really a Labour Party looking after people who work, it will ensure that neoliberal system is absolutely disavowed and work away from it and work towards progressive tax regimes.
So in your time in local politics, you obviously had a lot of time to debate and talk with and interface with the public, and I assume there were a lot of heated debates there, because you would probably go up against people who would call themselves on the right, and you would be perceived as being not just a left-leaning person, but they would probably call you a far-left person, right? So one thing, this happens to me occasionally too. I get into political discussions with people, and there are certain terms that get thrown around, and I'll be interested to know because you've read a little bit. You did political science at university, I understand. Yeah, so you've got some idea about some of these terms, but I'd like to maybe we both sit here and try and define what some of these terms are. So whenever I talk to a right-leaning person, there's 2 words that they pretty much always throw at me if we ever start getting a little bit heated, and one is socialism, second one is communism. So I get called a socialist and a communist, and I'd be interested to know, do you know the definitions of those terms, or how? Because I think people use those terms as if they know what they mean. But really, if we're going to have a political discussion, I'd like us to at least agree on what these terms mean before we start using them. Otherwise, we're being dishonest.
I think that's a really important thing to understand. What do people mean? And I've had those accusations levelled at me too: communist, socialist, far left. I don't know what they mean by far left. I actually don't understand that. I don't feel myself far left at all because I don't know what that means. Socialism and communism, well, I know what they were supposed to mean once upon a time, but I don't think that they really so much apply today. We've never seen these things in their pure states. What is
true?
And so if we haven't seen them in a pure state, they really mean whatever the person who's talking about it thinks it means. And I think that they should explain that. I mean, when I've asked people, well, what is communism to you? They say China. Well, I go, well, actually, China. It has a form of communism, I suppose, but man, does it operate a lot of capitalism in there.
A lot of capitalism.
So are you seeing communism as the antithesis of capitalism? Because if that's the case, China's not it, because it's got both those things going on.
We just looked up the political system in China, and apparently it is more autocratic.
Authoritarian.
Authoritarian.
So I think these, as you said, Confucius always said. Shall I read that little Confucius quote? Because that is just lovely, and it's one of the things that I was really careful in my time as a lecturer, is that being specific in your language and knowing what everything meant. And here it is. If language is not correct, then what is said is not what is meant. If what is said is not what is meant, then what ought to be done remains undone. So language, it's so important what people mean by these things, and they often don't know. And if you don't know what term you're throwing at me, why are you throwing it? Tell me what you mean by your socialism. Tell me what you mean by far left. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I have heard one definition that I always remember because it's so simple, and it's kind of odd because it's not what I would have thought a definition of communism is, but it is basically when the workers control the means of production. And
that's your Marxist version.
Right.
So Karl Marx always concerned himself with who owned the means of production. And when the means of production was in the hands of the elites, or in those days it was those big families in Russia and Germany and those areas, all of Northern Europe probably. Anyway, can't remember. But capital was his huge thesis on that subject, and that communism would be achieved when the workers owned the
means of production.
So
does that essentially mean a country's resources would be nationalised?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and have a really good look at that.
Yeah, how can a country's manufacturing be owned and managed by
an overseas corporation?
if it wasn't nationalised.
That's and there's probably something there. I don't know.
Because I just want to.
I can see you quite like this nationalising idea.
Well, it's an interesting idea in that
it just hasn't worked for anyone yet, except China.
Yeah, I mean, it works for China,
Maybe Russia.
Human rights issues aside, China aren't doing that badly, but unfortunately, that's a big exception.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's, again, if we talk about China's human rights, let's look at our own human rights.
True.
It's pretty easy to point a finger. I'm sure it's not easy to be a Uyghur and a Uyghur Muslim person in China. Well, clearly it's not. But it's not easy to be a Muslim person anywhere now, is it?
Well, I mean, one of the good things about the discourse at the moment is that in the past, Western countries would be held up as this beacon of freedom, right? As this example to others. And I think America has shown that they cannot be looked at as a beacon of morality for anybody. And they don't have the right to dictate what anyone else's human rights record should be, given their own human rights record.
Exactly. But if we get rid of some of those terms like socialism and communism as things that we don't really know what they are, because we've never seen them in practice really, and look to totalitarianism and authoritarianism and
that's probably
democracy,
closer to the reality.
It's closer to reality.
Yeah.
And America, under the definitions of authoritarianism, is most certainly an authoritarian state now, where elitist group,
Yep.
or if you wanted to be in the conspiracy theory mindset, a cabal is running the country, and it is.
So that's
to
the
its
loose. Is that the loose definition of authoritarian
Yes.
system? Is a small minority of people
or one
or one person
control most of it, but allowing a certain amount of freedom,
freedom.
in other systems. Yeah.
Right.
But don't
right.
try coming up against them.
Yeah, right. So they hold the power both politically and economically? Is that kind of the idea?
I don't think it necessarily defines it as politically and economically, but it does. They do hold the power.
Hold the power.
So
yeah.
it would be those things.
Yeah.
And even of the justice system in America, I mean, you know, the Supreme Court was stacked. It's pretty interesting what's happened there.
Yeah.
And if you start looking at those definitions of totalitarianism and authoritarianism, well, you've probably got Russia heading into the totalitarian system. It's probably authoritarian at the moment, but heading into totalitarianism.
Yeah.
North Korea. But there are lots of countries, Eritrea, there are lots of countries that are in a totalitarianist system
right now. Yeah.
And, you know, Iran would probably be there too, within a totalitarian theocracy led by religious people. And that is terribly irritating for America, clearly.
So by adding the word theocratic, so what is the word theocratic?
Religious-led, basically.
Religiously led. So rather than just be led by a group, by adding the word theocratic, you're adding religious group that controls it.
Yeah.
And Iran would be an example of that.
Yeah.
Woo, my gosh, there's so much.
But looking up those terms is really useful, and just understanding them. And I think it's easier to think of the world down those lines, because then you can actually see what's happening and go, man, America used to be the country of the free. But actually, by the definition of authoritarian, it's now an authoritarian country. Now, is that, in my mind, that is not compatible with the land of the free.
Of course.
But with somebody else's mind, it might be.
Of course not. Yeah. Well, this whole idea of land of the free, from what I can tell, is there's a certain group within America that say, as long as I'm free, then it's the land of the free.
Is that the human condition, though?
Yeah.
As long as it's good for me, it's fine.
As long as it's my freedom that's not at risk, then it's the land of the free, right? Anyway, that's I think they are a good petri dish of what could go wrong, the extreme of political change.
Well, it's not a petri dish, it's right out in amongst everything. That petri dish has escaped the lab, and we're in big trouble. Just as we were last time a petri dish escaped the lab. Oh, that's not easy.
It's almost like this cabal are the scientists, and that country is the petri dish. It's going, let's try some stuff, squirt some things in the middle of it and see what happens. Like, oh, God, that didn't work out how we planned.
It's not quite so good, is it? But I think the American political system is so interesting. And I lived in the States for a couple of years, and it's just so fascinating to see how they have become completely wedded to their colours and their corners.
Yeah, right.
You know, they support that red flag, that Republican flag, no matter what.
Yeah.
You can have a demented sex offender who's got criminal charges against him, all sorts of stuff, leading the country, but he's red.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
So one of the reasons why I think that country is in total mess, perhaps a future collapse, is because I personally think it's not as bad, but that thing is still happening on the other side as well. I think there are people on the other side who can't move either. Absolutely. Yeah.
Totally agree. And people are stuck in their corners. When you're stuck in their corners, the only way out is fighting, eh?
Now, I tend to side with the other side, not the red side, but I just don't see the point in being rigidly stuck in your corner regardless.
No point.
So, and I do notice that independents seem to sway the politics in America. They seem to be the people who end up making the decisions about which way they end up going, red or blue, because all the other places are so entrenched in their blue or entrenched in their red that all it takes is a small group to sway to sway in each direction, according to
I haven't noticed that, but you may well be right.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm right either. It's just what I hear, because what they call the battleground states
Yes.
are always
I see what you mean. Yes, that's right. That is right. That does.
The
sway,
independents
the
seem
swingers,
to, the swing
voters.
the swing voters tend to, and so the key battleground states look to be the same states every
every time.
cycle. Yeah, it's the same
Ohio,
handful of states,
yeah.
And all they have to do is sway those particular states, and then they win the election.
And they have that strange electoral college thing, which I don't understand.
My God, I just don't understand. It's it's so wrong, and
so you vote for someone to vote to make a decision for you.
Yeah,
it's a very indirect system.
Yeah, and the gerrymandering is like mind blowing. I can't believe you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, just move the borders.
Just move everything around.
Yeah.
Mind you, they are a goalpost moving country, so every time you talk to them, the goalposts are going all over the place, regardless of which side you're talking to be fair. But I want to get off the American thing for a bit, because
we're the New Zealand thing.
Yeah, and we're close to wrapping up this particular chat. So, we didn't really get into definitions, but would you have any idea how to define the term socialism? This is the one that seems to...
Socialism should be pro-social policies. So socialism should be a state that looks after people first.
Right. That's nice and simple.
Is that something to be proud of? I would have thought it was. Why would you be worried about being socialist?
Yeah.
What happens under socialism is people go, well, who pays for that? And the wealth of the country pays for everything, always. And that's still the case now. So who has the means of
production? Who owns the means of production, yeah. Exactly. So this is how socialism and communism are sort of tied together, right? Because in order to do that, it's best if they also control the means of production.
Yeah.
The means of production thing, for me, it seems to be more controls the resources.
Well, Yeah. I guess it is. So the means of the production was actually the industrial system, wasn't it? That was developed.
The industrial system.
And of course, the industrial system is highly reliant on the resources available to it.
Yeah. So
you'll be getting beyond my political science knowledge if we start going into that too far.
But you did raise something else that I kind of just want to touch on as well. On a spectrum, how far do you think New Zealand politics is in relation to the extremes? How do you think for the most part all of us can be grouped into more of a central position, or do you think some of us have moved far to the right, far to the left?
I think we've moved as a country in all our parties further to the right. And we were narrowly centrist for a long time. And, really you could look at National and Labour a few years back and go, well, what's the difference? Very little.
Yeah.
But if you look at the national governments of the 1970s and right up through to Muldoon, they were far further left than our national party is today.
True.
And I think everything else is dragged more towards that right too. But as I think I've said a couple of times, is I don't like that left and right definition. I prefer the axis the up-down axis, because what that shows me is that what's happening in New Zealand and what's happening elsewhere as things swing to the right is a loss of local decision-making, hyper-local decision-making. And that disappears if you go far left or far right. So the best local decision-making is right in the centre. And moving away from that, I think, is making things quite tricky for governance in New Zealand. And it's definitely making us far more uneven. And I don't think either left or right have the answers. Mm-hmm. I think the answers are far more likely to be found with an informed, happy, housed, fed and employed population. So if we want to solve some of the great issues that New Zealand faces and we've been facing for a long time and absolutely abjectly failed to do anything about them, and those are housing, inequality, loss of productivity, lack of productivity, those sorts, and environmental pollution. Those are probably the really big ones we haven't done anything about. And to do those, everything I think about says the best place to do that work is really locally. Things like what we've both worked on with the Tapo, Tane and Lake Hayes and things like that, those local things to do, we know how to solve our problems locally. And the further we move to either the right or the left, the more we won't have the chance to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because what I kind of vaguely remember about a right position, or maybe it's a libertarian position, is small government, meaning the government needs to have less control over what we do, and yet the right seems to be obsessed with controlling everything that we do at the local
it's all a
level.
Bit of a misnomer, isn't it?
It is.
And
it is. Are they really right?
What do they mean there? Get government stay right out of the way and do whatever you like. Well,
central
who
government.
does that work? It's a central government.
Yeah.
Who does that work for? Which filters down to local government, because central government's telling local government what they can and can't do.
Yeah, you've got to be smaller as well.
That's right. So, and how does that play out? That plays out in more pollution, more inequality.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. Yeah. I'm just finding the hypocrisy of the position.
Yeah.
The right is supposed to be for the smaller government, and yet they are enforcing on all of us more rules than what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be stepping away from that and letting the market decide. But now they seem to be involved not only in the control of everything, which is essentially controlling what the market looks like, i.e., it's for their lobby groups and for the people who exact influence over them. Anyway, we're probably really close to wrapping up now. So we've gone over time, which I knew we would.
Easy to do. You start talking politics.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, let's keep conversations going.
Yeah.
And let's please not go the way of the American people in entrenching ourselves in some ideological corner or another.
Yeah.
Just keep talking. Be local. Be local.
Yeah. Best advice to finish on, which is try not to be American. That's a great little thing to finish on. So I really appreciate you coming in today. I think there's more discussions we could have in the months leading up to the election. So thank you so much for having a chat with us. So if you like that, whānau, please click the like button down below there. Fantastic. I really enjoyed this particular conversation and looking forward to more. So please remember to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time on The Tube. Mā te wā.